Something explosive is happening in the world of reality TV. And if you thought the drama between Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris was over, think again. Because behind those picture-perfect Instagram posts and red carpet smiles, a storm has been brewing. One that's about to turn their so-called happily ever after into a headline-fueled battleground. In a shocking twist that's rocked the love and hip-hop fan base, whispers of betrayal, emotional distance, and even infidelity have begun to surface, and fans, they're not just surprised, they're shook. Is this the end of Yandy and Mendeecees? One fan tweeted, "We rooted for them. Now this." Sources close to the couple claim that what started as a quiet disagreement has spiraled into something much darker. Accusations thrown behind closed doors, tense silence during family dinners, and cryptic posts hinting at secrets no one's supposed to know. Even longtime friends of the couple are keeping their distance. So what really went down? Was it betrayal, emotional manipulation, or something even more shocking? Stick around, because we're about to break down every twist, every tear, and every truth behind the scandal that has the internet buzzing. You won't believe how deep this drama goes. The silence between Yandy and Mendeecees had become deafening. What once looked like a fairy tale built on resilience and forgiveness was now crumbling under the weight of unspoken resentment. Behind every forced smile, there was tension. Behind every public appearance, there were private battles no one saw. It didn't start with one big blow-up. No, this was a slow burn. The kind that sneaks up on you, choking the love right out of a relationship. The kind that makes even the strongest bonds feel brittle. Mendeecees had been acting distant for weeks. Yandy noticed it first in the little things. He stopped texting her good morning. He would come home late, blaming meetings that had no receipts. The kids noticed too. Their son asked her, "Mommy, why is Daddy always mad?" That question cut deeper than she expected. And the worst part, she didn't have an answer. She didn't want to believe what her gut was screaming. Something was wrong. When she finally confronted him, the conversation quickly spiraled. "What's going on with you?" she asked one night, her voice trembling. Mendeecees didn't even look up from his phone. "You always think something's wrong. Maybe it's just you." The words hit her like a slap. For a moment, she just stood there, stunned. He had never talked to her like that. At least, not before. Behind the scenes, rumors had started to circulate. A friend of Yandy's had spotted Mendeecees at a lounge in Atlanta with a woman who wasn't her. The two were sitting way too close, laughing, whispering, touching. When the friend told Yandy, she brushed it off. "Nah, he wouldn't do that to me. Not after everything we've been through." But deep down, doubt had already taken root. Things only got worse from there. Mendeecees started disappearing for whole weekends. "Business trip," he'd text. No explanation, no details. Yandy would lie awake all night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if her marriage was unraveling in slow motion. And yet, she stayed, quiet, not because she didn't care, but because she was scared. Scared that if she pushed too hard, she'd lose him completely. On the outside, they kept up appearances. They posted family photos, attended events, even did a joint interview where they praised each other's strength. Fans were none the wiser. But in private, it was like living with a stranger. He barely spoke to her. He slept on the couch. And when she tried to touch his hand, he pulled away like her love was something toxic. One night, it all came to a head. Yandy found a message on his phone. She wasn't snooping. At least that's what she told herself. It was open on the kitchen counter. A text from an unsaved number that read, "I miss you already. Last night was everything." Her stomach dropped. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, frozen, like the air had been sucked out of the room. When Mendeecees walked in, he saw the look on her face and knew immediately. You went through my phone," he said, voice cold. "No," she replied. "Your lies came to me." That's when it exploded. Words flew like daggers. Accusations, denials. Pain poured out of both of them. Years of unresolved hurt spilling over. He claimed he was tired of feeling judged. She accused him of emotional abandonment. He shouted. She broke down. And yet, even after all that, they didn't separate. Not physically, at least. They lived in the same house, raised the same kids, smiled for the same cameras. But emotionally, they were worlds apart. It was like watching a glass slowly crack. No shattering sound, just quiet devastation, inching toward collapse. The media started picking up on the tension. Gossip blogs posted side-by-side photos of Yandy looking tearful at a charity event, while Mendeecees was spotted partying solo in Miami. Fans flooded the comment sections. Something's going on. They're faking it for the cameras. She deserves better. And as always, the internet had theories. Some claimed Mendeecees had a secret child. Others said Yandy had already filed for separation, but was hiding it to protect her brand. But the truth was more complicated than anyone knew. Behind the scandalous headlines were two people holding on by a thread. Two people who had once survived prison, fame, public scrutiny, and now found themselves destroyed by silence. Yandy tried to talk to him again, this time in a softer tone, like maybe gentleness would work where confrontation failed. "We can't keep pretending," she said. "The kids see it. They feel it." Mendeecees didn't respond right away. He just sat there, staring out the window like he wanted to escape. Then finally, he said something that shattered her all over again. "Maybe we should take a break." Those words echoed through her chest, not because of what they meant, but because of who they were coming from. This was the man who once swore he'd never leave her side. The man who cried in court when he thought he'd never hold her hand again. And now he wanted space. Yandy didn't argue. She just nodded, stood up, and walked away. But she didn't go far, because deep inside, a part of her still hoped, still believed that maybe, just maybe, this was a rough patch they could survive. Love wasn't supposed to be easy, right? They had already overcome so much. Prison time, public judgment, career pressures. Maybe they could overcome this too. What she didn't know was that while she was still hoping, Mendeecees was already making decisions that would change everything. That weekend, he packed a small bag and left. No goodbye, no note, just gone. And when he didn't return for 2 days, Yandy called one of his closest friends. "Do you know where he is?" she asked. The response chilled her. "I thought he was with you." That's when panic set in. Not just worry for his safety, but fear of what he might be doing, or who he might be doing it with. And when she finally tracked him down, through tagged photos on social media, what she saw left her breathless. He was at a private pool party, arms wrapped around the same woman from the lounge, smiling, relaxed, like nothing in the world was wrong. And that's where the real story begins. Because what happened next would blow the lid off the entire illusion they had spent years building. Fans would turn, friends would choose sides, and a family would find itself at war with the truth. But let's go back to that photo, the one that started it all. The one that made Yandy realize that sometimes love isn't enough to keep someone loyal. And as that image burned into her memory, she knew the storm was just getting started. Yandy stared at the photo for hours. Her phone, screen dimmed multiple times, but she kept tapping it back on. as if studying the image would somehow make it make sense. There he was, Mendeecees, half submerged in the glowing blue water of a private pool, laughing like he had no care in the world. The woman in his arms wasn't just close, she was intimate. Her hand rested on his chest like she owned it, and the way he looked at her, it was the kind of look Yandy hadn't seen directed at her in months. She didn't scream, she didn't throw the phone, she just sat there, shaking. Because this wasn't just a betrayal, it was a confirmation. All those gut feelings, those cold nights, the quiet dinners, the distance, it all pointed here. And now, the truth was undeniable. He was gone. Maybe not physically, maybe not forever, but emotionally, spiritually, his heart was no longer hers. The next morning, she didn't even have to say anything. Her friend Keisha came over with coffee and saw the devastation on Yandy's face. "He did it, didn't he?" she asked, already knowing the tin answer. Yandy nodded, silent tears falling down her cheeks. "I saw the pics," Keisha added. "It's all over Instagram now. The blogs picked it up too. They're calling her his mystery Miami girl." But the mystery didn't stay at bay. Mystery for long. Within 24 hours, internet sleuths identified the woman as Shanice Parker, a rising influencer with a reputation for stirring drama. She was no stranger to fame-hungry stunts. Last year, she claimed she was dating a married NBA player. Now, she was linked to Mendeecees, and she wasn't being quiet about it. In fact, she posted a blurry boomerang of her and Mendeecees at a candlelit dinner the same night he was supposed to be working late. Yandy was furious, but she wasn't about to let the world see her break. She'd worked too hard building her brand, her image, her legacy. Instead, she did what any boss woman would do. She got strategic. The next day, she posted a photo of herself and the kids, all smiles and sunshine, with the caption, "Focus on what matters." Fans flooded the comments with support. "Stay strong, Queen. He doesn't deserve you. Protect your peace." But behind the scenes, Yandy was unraveling. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She kept replaying every moment of their relationship, wondering when the switch flipped. When did he stop loving her? Or worse, did he ever really love her at all? And then came the questions that cut the deepest. Was she not enough? Had she failed as a wife? Mendeecees, on the other hand, seemed unbothered. He wasn't just avoiding her. He was flaunting his new freedom. More photos surfaced of him at parties, on boats, drinking, dancing, living. And Shanice? She leaned into the chaos. She started posting cryptic captions like, "I'll never be someone's second choice again," and "Some women get the ring, others get the man." Fans took the bait. Hashtags started trending. Team Yandy, Shanice, and Mendeecees. The internet had picked sides, and things were getting ugly. The pressure mounted when Yandy received a call from VH1 producers. They wanted her and Mendeecees to appear on a special episode of Love and Hip Hop, Revelations. The theme? Relationships in crisis. At first, she refused. "I'm not airing my trauma for ratings," she told them. But they offered a 6-figure deal and full editorial control. Plus, part of her wanted answers. If he wasn't going to talk to her in private, maybe he'd be forced to face the truth on camera. They agreed to film at a neutral location, a luxury rental in the hills. No kids, no distractions, just raw conversation. The moment they saw each other, the air grew heavy. Mendeecees looked tired but defensive. Yandy looked radiant but hollow. When the cameras rolled, the producer gave a simple prompt: "Talk." And for a long moment, neither of them said a word. Finally, Yandy broke the silence. "Why her?" she asked, not with anger, but with something more painful: disappointment. Mendeecees shifted in his seat. "I don't know, it wasn't planned. So it just happened," she replied. "Like tripping over a curb, or spilling coffee," he sighed. "You stopped seeing me. We stopped being us." That was the theme of the entire conversation. He claimed emotional neglect. She cited abandonment. He said she made everything about her career. She reminded him of the years. She held it all down while he was locked up. They talked over each other. They cried. They accused. They begged. It was chaos. It was heartbreak. It was television gold. At one point, Mendeecees stood up, pacing. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Yandy, but I felt invisible, like a burden you were tired of carrying." She stood too, face flushed. "You were never a burden. You were my husband. I fought for you when everyone told me not to. I believed in you." He looked at her then, really looked, and for a second, the weight of their history hung between them like a ghost. All the visits through bulletproof glass, all the love letters, all the lonely nights with the kids asking, "When's Daddy coming home?" But that second passed. "I think we outgrew each other," he said quietly. "And I hate that." When the cameras stopped rolling, Yandy walked out first. The crew watched in silence. No one spoke. No one dared. It wasn't just a breakup scene. It was a funeral for everything they once were. And yet, the drama didn't end there. The footage leaked 2 days before the episode aired. Someone on set had filmed it on a burner phone and sold it to a gossip site. The internet exploded. "Did y'all see how she looked at him?" One fan tweeted, "This is deeper than cheating. This is betrayal at the soul level." The fallout was instant. Brands started backing out of their joint endorsements. Podcast invites poured in. Everyone wanted Yandy's side. Shanice went live on Instagram, smirking into the camera. "All I did was show up," she said. "If your man leaves that easy, he was never really yours." Yandy didn't respond publicly. Not yet. But privately, she made a decision that shocked everyone, even Mendeecees. She hired a lawyer, not to start a war, but to protect her peace, to draw a line in the sand, and maybe to finally walk away. But just as she was beginning to rebuild her life, another twist turned the tables yet again. One that no one saw coming. Not Yandy, not Mendeecees, not even Shanice, because someone else had entered the chat, a name from the past, a secret buried deep, and a revelation that would shatter everything. Again, a name from the past, a secret buried deep, and a revelation that would shatter everything. Again, her name was Tamara, not a celebrity, not an influencer, just a quiet face from Mendeecees' past, one that hadn't been seen in years. But the moment her name surfaced, it was as if time itself froze. Because Tamara wasn't just any woman. She was the mother of a child Mendeecees had never publicly acknowledged. It all started with a single dime. A blogger posted a blind item. A reality star's crumbling marriage is nothing compared to the secret child he's hiding from the world. The mother, someone from his pre-fame days. Fans immediately began guessing, but then Tamara herself broke the silence, posting a blurry photo of a boy around 7 years old with the caption, "He deserves to know his siblings." The internet erupted. At first, many thought it was clout chasing, another woman trying to ride the wave of scandal, but then she posted receipts, text messages, photos, even a dated paternity test. And just like that, the narrative shifted. It wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about lies. Deep, Foundational lies that made Yandy question if she ever knew the man she married. Yandy found out like everyone else, through her phone, through the screaming headlines. She locked herself in her bedroom for hours. The kids were at school. The housekeepers were told to leave. She needed silence to process the noise. Another child, another betrayal. But this wasn't about Shanice anymore. This was about a decade of deception. And the worst part? She'd asked him once, years ago, about rumors of another child. He'd looked her in the eye and said, "You're my future. Everything else is behind me." That lie now played in her head on loop. Keisha showed up again, this time with wine, instead of coffee. "Girl, this man had a whole child out here and said nothing." Yandy just nodded. "He looked me in the eye, Keisha. He lied to my face." "Nah, that's not just betrayal. That's manipulation. That's a man who doesn't respect you." Meanwhile, Mendeecees went silent, completely. No posts, no statements, just absence. Fans began turning on him. "You lost a real one," they commented. "How many women you gonna hurt? You had a queen and chose chaos." Tamra, however, wasn't done. She went on a podcast, Tea and Receipts Live, and dropped bombshell after bombshell. She said they'd reconnected briefly before he got back with Yandy, that he'd known about the child since the beginning, that he'd promised to handle it quietly, and even offered money to stay silent. "But I'm not here for a check," Tamra said. "I'm here for my son to be acknowledged." It wasn't long before the media frenzy reached VH1 again. They asked Yandy if she'd be willing to do another sit-down, this time with Tamra. At first, she said no. She was done being humiliated on camera. But then she thought about the child, about her own kids, about the kind of woman she wanted to be. So she agreed. Not for ratings, not for revenge, but for closure. The studio set it up like a peace summit. Minimal crew, no audience, just two mothers, one table, and a decade's worth of truth between them. Tamara walked in first, calm, composed, nervous. Yandy followed, guarded but graceful. The moment their eyes met, it was tense, but not hostile. "Not here to fight you," Tamra began. "I believe you," Yandy replied. "I don't think this is your fault." And with that, the wall broke. They talked. Not as rivals, but as women who'd been lied to by the same man. Tamra shared how Mendeecees kept her and the child hidden, how she watched him on TV pretending to be a family man, while her son asked, "Why doesn't Daddy want me?" Yandy listened, her eyes welling up. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Not for him, but because I know how that feels." It wasn't just healing. It was powerful. Two women wronged by the same man, choosing unity over chaos. And that unity, it sent shockwaves through the internet. "This is how women should handle drama." One tweet said, "Not tearing each other down, but lifting each other up." Mendeecees, however, couldn't hide forever. The pressure became too much. He finally posted a statement, a black screen with white text. "I made mistakes. I was scared. But no child should grow up without knowing where they come from. I take full responsibilities. I will do better." But the apology felt hollow, too little, too late. Fans weren't having it. "You were scared. She was raising your kid alone. Yandy deserves better. This isn't growth, it's damage control." Then, just when it seemed the worst was over, another twist dropped. Shanice, remember her? She went live again, but this time, she wasn't smirking, she was crying. "I didn't know about the other woman," she said between sobs. "He told me they were separated, that Yandy was cold, that he was trapped in a fake marriage for TV." The comments lit up like wildfire. "So he played all of you. This man is the real villain." And just like that, Mendeecees' image shattered completely. It wasn't just one bad decision. It was a pattern, a web of lies, a trail of heartbreak. Yandy, though, she rose above it all. She didn't bash him publicly, didn't clap back at Shanice, didn't shame Tamara. Instead, she announced a new foundation, Truth Over Trauma, dedicated to helping single mothers navigate betrayal and rebuild. The launch video went viral. She stood in front of a white backdrop, wearing no makeup, just honesty. "You can't control what people do to you," she said, "but you can control how you rise from it." It was the most powerful thing she'd ever done. But even then, the story wasn't finished. Not by a long shot, because one more secret was still lurking, one more player in the shadows. And the moment that truth came out, it would flip the entire narrative on its head again. But even then, the story wasn't finished. Not by a long shot, because one more secret was still lurking, one more player in the shadows. And the moment that truth came out, it would flip the entire narrative on its head again. His name was Darius, an old friend, or at least, that's how Mendeecees had described him. They grew up in Harlem together, ran in the same circles, even did a few hustles side by side before the spotlight came. But what no one knew, not Yandy, not Tamara, not even Shanice, was that Darius had been holding onto a secret for years. A secret that he threatened to expose, unless he got paid. It started with a voicemail. Yandy received it late one night, right after her foundation's launch had gone viral. The voice was scratchy, agitated. "You think you know everything. You don't. Mendeecees been lying to all of you. Call me back, or I call the blogs." She didn't respond. But the next day, Hollywood T Central posted a blurry clip of Darius in a smoky room, speaking into the camera. The truth about Mendeecees? Oh, y'all not ready. This man ain't just been hiding kids. He's been hiding a whole lifestyle. The internet paused. What did that mean? What lifestyle? The rumors flew fast. Secret relationship, illegal business, fake identity. Finally, Darius dropped the full video. In it, he claimed that years ago, during one of Mendeecees' prison stints, the two of them had agreed to a deal. Darius would take the fall for a serious charge in exchange for a large sum once Mendeecees was released. But that payout never came. Instead, Darius did 5 years, while Mendeecees went on to build a brand and marry Yandy. And now, Darius wanted revenge. "He used me," Darius said, pacing in the video. "He left me to rot and walked out a hero. Well, guess what? Heroes don't lie. And I got the paperwork to prove it. And he did. Court documents, sealed depositions, a letter from Mendeecees allegedly promising to make things right. Fans were stunned. Not only had Mendeecees been unfaithful, he'd allegedly thrown an old friend under the bus to save himself. Yandy was blindsided. Again. She called Mendeecees. For the first time in weeks, he answered. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. He sighed. "He's bitter. That's all. He's making things bigger than they were." "Were you involved in that case?" she asked. A long silence. Then, "I did what I had to do to survive." And just like that, she knew. Everything was true. All of it. Mendeecees had built a life on damage control. Each scandal hidden with a half-truth. Each woman convinced she was the only one he'd wronged. And now it was all unraveling. Fast. Yandy met with her legal team, not to divorce him, yet, but to protect her assets. The house, the kids' trust funds, her brand. She had worked too hard to let his past mistakes drag her under. Meanwhile, Tamara and Shanice, once strangers, began messaging privately. They weren't friends, Not yet, but they understood each other in a way no one else could. And together, they began piecing together the full timeline of Mendeecees' lies. The overlapping dates, the excuses, the manipulation. A new podcast titled Surviving Mendeecees launched, hosted by an anonymous fan who'd tracked the saga from the beginning. It featured voice notes, testimonials from women who claimed they had also been involved with him over the years, and interviews with insiders. It trended #1 on Spotify within 48 hours. But the most jaw-dropping moment came in episode 3. The host played a never-before-heard jailhouse recording. Mendeecees talking to someone named Miss D and promising to clean the slate once he got out. "You held me down," he said. "I won't forget that. Once I'm out, we do this right." The implication. Another woman, another secret, another chapter. Yandy sat in her home office, listening to the clip on repeat. She felt numb, hollow, betrayed in ways words couldn't capture. "How many of us are there?" she muttered under her breath. The answer, it seemed, was still unfolding, folding. One night, her oldest son came into her room. "Mom, are we okay?" he asked, his eyes filled with fear. "Are you and Dad breaking up?" She hugged him tight. "We're gonna be okay," she whispered. "No matter what." And she meant it. Because now, it wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about protection. Her kids, her peace, her truth. Meanwhile, Mendeecees tried to salvage what little public image he had left. He went live on Instagram. His face was tired, his voice shaky. "I've made mistakes," he said, "but I'm human. I never claimed to be perfect." The comments were brutal. "You used everyone around you. Take accountability for once. Your mistakes have consequences." Then, as if things couldn't get worse, Darius filed a lawsuit. Public defamation, breach of verbal contract, mental distress. The tabloids had a field day. One headline read, "From love and hip-hop to lawsuits and lies, the fall of Mendeecees." Harris. Yandy stayed silent. Her brand was growing. Her foundation was gaining national attention. Schools were inviting her to speak about resilience and rebuilding. And everywhere she went, women whispered, "Thank you for showing us we can survive." But deep down, the pain lingered. She'd loved him, truly, fully. She believed in their future, in their family, and now that future was scorched earth. Trust, gone. Loyalty, shattered. Legacy, rewritten. Still, something in her refused to fold, because this wasn't the end. No, the final twist was still coming. And when it hit, it wouldn't just break the internet. It would rewrite everything we thought we knew about Yandy and Mendeecees forever. The final twist didn't come through a podcast, a lawsuit, or a live video. It came through an envelope, plain, unmarked, slid under Yandy's office door. One rainy morning, no return address, no sender name, just a single sheet inside, folded neatly, with 2 photos and a handwritten note that read, "You've only scratched the surface." The first photo showed Mendeecees sitting in a dimly lit restaurant across from a woman no one had seen before. His hand was on hers. His face looked soft, almost peaceful. The second photo, it was a birth certificate. A girl, 8 years old, father listed, Mendeecees Harris. Yandy's breath caught. She sat down, reread the paper 5 times, and still couldn't process it. Another child, and not just any child. One he had never mentioned, never claimed, never supported. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was abandonment. She called Mendeecees. "I need you to come to the house. Now." He arrived 2 hours later, slow, hesitant, like he already knew what was waiting for him. Yandy laid the photos on the table without a word. He stared at them, didn't blink. "How long?" she asked. He didn't answer. "How long have you known about her?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "Since she was born." Yandy's chest tightened. "You've known for 8 years? And you said nothing?" "I was protecting you," he said. "I didn't want to lose everything." She laughed bitter. "You didn't want to lose everything. You've already lost everything. And that was it. No yelling, no breakdown. Just a quiet, final crack in the foundation. The last piece of the illusion, gone." But the fallout was just beginning. The woman in the photo, her name was Lena. Not a celebrity, not a reality TV star, just a woman who, years ago, had fallen for a charming man with a complicated past. She never asked for anything, never made demands. But when she saw the chaos unfolding in the media, she reached out, not for revenge, for her daughter. She sent Yandy a letter, handwritten, sincere. "I didn't want to be part of this," it read. "But she deserves to know where she comes from, and she deserves better than silence." The letter broke Yandy, not out of anger, out of grief. Grief for the life she thought she had. Grief for the woman who had quietly raised a child alone, while the father played house with someone else. Grief for her own children, who would now have to face a truth far darker than they could have imagined. And in that moment, Yandy made a decision. No more protecting him, no more silence. She released a statement, raw, direct, unapologetic. "I believed in a man who showed me pieces of himself, but never the whole truth. What I know now is that silence doesn't protect families. It destroys them. And I refuse to stay silent anymore." The internet erupted. Some praised her courage. Others criticized her for airing it out. But the vast majority, they were stunned into silence. The story had gone from a messy relationship to a full-blown expose of generational betrayal, manipulation, and secrets. Mendeecees went underground. No more live videos. No more damage control. Just silence. Some said he was in therapy. Others said he'd left New York altogether. Rumors swirled that he was trying to reconnect with Lena and the daughter he'd ignored. No one really knew, but Yandy moved forward. She met with Lena privately, not as enemies, as mothers. They talked for hours about motherhood, healing, and the future. By the end of the meeting, Yandy made a choice that shocked everyone. She invited Lena's daughter to meet her own children, not because she forgave Mendeecees, but because the kids deserve truth, connection, a chance to rewrite the cycle. The reunion was quiet, private, no cameras, no blogs, just children meeting each other for the first time, unaware of the adult chaos that brought them together. A week later, Yandy launched a new campaign through her foundation, titled Reclaiming Our Stories. It aimed to empower women who'd survived public betrayal and private heartbreak. The campaign was a hit. Donations poured in, survivors came forward, and Yandy's voice, once drowned out by scandal, became a symbol of strength. Meanwhile, Tamara and Shanice teamed up for a panel discussion on emotional recovery from toxic relationships. They didn't bash Mendeecees by name. They didn't need to. Their presence together said enough. Even Darius, the once villain of the narrative, found unexpected support. His lawsuit was still ongoing, but his story sparked deeper conversations about loyalty, exploitation, and the cost of silence in male friendships. As for Mendeecees, no one knows where he stands now. Some say he's seeking redemption. Others say he's still denying everything. But one thing's for sure, the empire he built on secrets and charm has crumbled, and all that's left is the reckoning in the end. It wasn't just about infidelity or lies. It was about a legacy, fractured, exposed, and rebuilt by the very people he tried to keep in the dark. And Yandy, she didn't just survive, she rose. Not as a victim, not even as a survivor, but as a mother, a leader, and a woman who chose truth over illusion, peace over chaos, and growth over grief. The story of Yandy and Mendeecees isn't just about scandal, it's a mirror for anyone who's ever loved too deeply, trusted too blindly, and finally decided, enough is enough. As the dust settles and the cameras fade, one truth remains. Some stories are louder in silence than in spectacle. The saga of Yandy and Mendeecees wasn't just reality TV fodder. It became a raw, unfiltered reflection of love's fragility, of betrayal's sharp edge, and of the strength it takes to walk away from what once felt like everything. Fans are still reeling from the storm, some standing with Yandy for choosing dignity over damage, others still struggling to reconcile the charming image they had of Mendeecees with the man who hid a whole child for nearly a decade. The family remains divided. The internet is flooded with opinions, memes, breakdowns, and theories. But amidst all the noise, the one thing no one can deny is this: what happened here changed everything. Will Mendeecees ever reclaim his place in the public eye? Will he acknowledge his full truth, or continue hiding in shadows? Will Yandy ever find love again after such a deep rupture in trust? And what about the children? Can they build bonds in a world that tried so hard to keep them apart? You've followed the drama, you've seen the secrets unravel, and now we want to hear from you. Do you think Yandy made the right choice stepping away? Is Mendeecees capable of redemption? And what would you do if someone you loved hid an entire life from you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back. Like this video if you felt the heat of the drama, subscribe for more untold stories, and hit that bell so you never miss an update from the world where reality is always stranger than fiction. Because in this game of fame and feelings, no one gets out clean, and the truth always comes with a price.